How's it going, everybody? Coming to you today from the driveway because I have a project for the TW. Last weekend I went out and did some riding. I didn't record it. It was just a little supposed to be leisurely ride. And I ended up on a trail where I was struggling with this back tire. So I reached out to Bradley Performance and I got one of their big fat tire kits for the TW, and we're going to be installing that on the TW today. And then we will take it for a ride and we'll see how we like it. This is just going to be the install video. This is going to be me doing it in my driveway. Bare bones. How easy can it be? How hard can it be? We'll soon find out. Let me bring you in. I'll show you a close-up of the Bradley Performance fat tire kit. I'll kind of go over everything and then we will go through the install. So stick around and let's see what kind of trouble we can get into. Okay, so this is the Bradley Performance fat tire kit for the TW200. They've got their hub assembly and it mounts up to an ATV rim, and you can get your choice of this tire, which is the Airlock Avenger, or they offer one that's a little bit more of an all-terrain. This one is in a 25-inch. You can also get it in a 26, or if you don't want to get the whole thing at once, you can get your own tire. You can get just the hub, you can get the rim, whatever you want. I opted to get the whole thing all at once, and since I was getting it for review purpose, just being upfront and honest, Brad at Bradley Performance did offer this to me at a discount, but there's a caveat for that discount. If you'll look right here, there is a slight ding in the rim, and it's hard to see, but inside here, where's it at? There's a spot inside here, it's hard to see, but there's a spot where the weld wasn't up to their standards. So since the rim had a slight spot in it, and since the hub had a slight cosmetic spot in it, they gave it to me at an extreme discount. So I am still buying this. I'm just buying it at a reviewer / damaged discount price. So just being upfront with everybody, that's why I got a little bit of a ding, and one of the welds not as pretty as what you will get. I just wanted to put that out there. So anyway, as you can see, this fat tire offers you quite a bit more bite. They are supposed to last a really long time on the TW. With the fact that you are using an actual ATV rim, you don't have any of the trouble of trying to bead a tubeless tire to a tubed rim. And yeah, it opens you up to a whole lot of different rear tires for the TW. They do have to meet a certain criteria, and I'll recommend you talk to Brad at Bradley Performance to find out what sizes and stuff with the side knobs and all of that. But this one is one that he sells because he knows it fits. It is a beefy dude, and I am sweating because it's like 90 degrees here in Arkansas and like 80% humidity. So it skews the face sweat. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. This really should give you a lot more bite on the trail. So without further ado, let's get the TW up on the stand, which I don't have an actual stand. Let's get it on the jack. We'll get the rear tire removed. We'll get the new tire put on. It's a pretty straightforward install. Your brake hub, you'll remove from your factory rim. Bolt here. You'll remove your factory gearing. Bolt here. Or if you have aftermarket gearing, it'll still bolt here. You also have to get your seal out of the sprocket side and place in here, and then boom, throw it all back together, should be ready to go. So I'll go through step by step. I just wanted to show the rim. I wanted to show their hub, and I wanted to show the tire. So this is one of the setups you can get. And as you can see, she is beefy. So I'm really looking forward to it. Let's get started. First step, since we're replacing the rear tire, is obviously to remove the rear tire. You'll need a 19 for this side. I believe it's a 20 over here. I don't have a 20, so you can make work with crescent wrenches. Just make sure that you put them properly, size them right to where they're not too loose. And you will then remove your rear tire. While you're over here removing the nut and washer and stuff off of your snell, off your axle, go ahead and loosen your brake. Take it all the way off because it's got to come off to remove the wheel. You'll just push forward and turn the wing nut. And it'll come off. Once you remove your wing nut, you can slide the brake and the rod out. This will probably come out as well, so just set those to the side. And go ahead, remove your spring so you don't lose it, set it to the side. This side's done, let's go back to the other. You want to push your axle out. Remove it. You should then be able to get enough slack in your chain to remove your chain off of your sprocket. And of course, I freshly lubed my chain, so it's going to get all over my hands. Okay. So, I actually did that backwards. There we go. Now we can pull it out. Your little spacer here. Your chain can just hang. And back tire's free. Sticking here at the bike, you've got two little bolts on your chain guard. They are 8mm. So we'll go ahead and remove these. It's kind of hard to see this front one, but it's right behind the foot peg, and it can kind of be a jerk to get to if you don't have an extension or a wobble joint. Either one will allow you to get there. But it is a little bit of a booger. Once you have the front and rear, you can just slide this up out of your way. A lot of people will either reuse these or not. It just depends on you. If you do reuse it, you have to make a permanent modification, and you have to cut along the back, along the top, and along the side, basically removing this whole back piece here. The reason, because the fatter tire is fatter. So when you do that, the part that this piece goes into, which is back here, I'll show you a close-up of it in a second, it has to be permanently removed as well. It has to be cut off. So if you're not okay with permanently altering a plastic chain guard or a chain guard tab, then I would stop right here. But it should be pretty straightforward. It's supposed to be pretty easy to do, and you know, what's this really doing anyway? Here's the tab I was talking about. You've got to cut it off here flush with your swing arm, because you can see it sticks in and comes up, and that would be in the way of the tire. So you have to permanently modify by getting rid of this. Now, that being said, how do you get rid of this? Bradley's Performance, they recommend using a grinder with like a cutoff wheel. Unfortunately, I don't have any cutoff wheels. So he said you can use a hacksaw. It's a little slower, but it can be used. He said, or sometimes these are just so flimsy that you can bend them a couple of times and they break. So I'm gonna grab my hacksaw, see how hard it is to get in here with the hacksaw. And if that sucks, then I'm gonna try the bend and break, because like I said, I don't have any cutoff wheels. So as you see, it can be done with a hacksaw. It requires a little bit of finagling, a little bit more work, but it took less than 5 minutes and it's done. So not a very hard thing to accomplish, even with a hacksaw. That's everything we got to do to the bike right now. So next step is to strip everything I need off of the factory hub and the factory wheel and put it on the fat tire and install the fat tire, and we're done. Okay, so with the sprocket, you've got your sprocket bolts, and then you've got your anti-walk tabs, whatever you want to call them. They're bent up to keep these from moving. So you got to find you a punch, a chisel, something that will fit in between here and the tab to allow you to bend the tabs down so that you can then remove the bolts, so that you can then remove your gearing. Now, while we're on the topic of gearing, if you don't want to do this, you can order a sprocket from Bradley Precision. They have them. You can make it all in one shop, or you could order one of these from anywhere that sells TW sprockets, but then you've got separate shipping. So if you want to leave this alone, I would just recommend getting with Brad and ordering what sprocket you will need for your riding style. Since I'm sticking with the factory and I'm going to go ahead and take this off of the factory, that's what I got to do. Anyway, so now you got to bend down these tabs and remove the bolts to be able to remove your sprocket to then place it on the new rim. So. After you bend your tabs out of the way, you're going to need a 14mm wrench and a 14mm socket. If you have access to air, then you can use an impact, or if you don't, maybe you've got a cordless. If you don't have those, you'll just have to do it the hard way. My little impact is a small, lightweight one. Hopefully it's got enough power to take these off, so we will see. Now there's a nut and a washer. I dropped the washer, but there is a nut and washer on each one. Just like that, your factory sprocket can come off, and we'll move on to the next step. The next step is you've got to remove this bearing seal, and it's best if you have a bearing seal remover or something to that effect. I don't, so I'm gonna have to use some screwdrivers and just kind of gently try to work this thing up and out without tearing it. You could always buy a new one, but when you order from Bradley, it does not come with one of these. So we're going to try a couple of different screwdrivers, figure out which one fits in here the best and the easiest without tearing anything up. And we're going to slowly start trying to work this guy out. And voila, it came out. And just like that, we're done with everything on this side of the hub. Now, we've got 3 12mm nuts we got to get off, because we're going to be reusing the TW brakes on the Bradley hub. So we got to remove those 3 12mm. This should pop off, and then we'll be done with the old wheel and hub assembly, and we'll be moving on to the Bradley. Depending on the size of your socket and ratchet, you may be able to fit it inside, or you may have to use a wrench. I got mine to fit in there, but I haven't seen if I could break it loose yet. So you don't have a lot of room to work with. So I was hoping this after you break it free, you should be able to remove it by hand and go on to the next one. And then hold on to it as you remove the third one, because it will try to fall. And there you go. We are now totally done with the factory, so we can move it out of the way. So this here is all of the factory components that you have to remove to put onto the Bradley. On the rear brake hub, you will want to start these, but don't tighten them down. There's a little bit of play built into the hub, and you've got to get this, everything put together with this slightly tightened down. Then you have to hit the brakes, and that will center the hub to the wheel. Once you do that, you can then tighten these 3 bolts up. But you put it together, leave it loose, put it all on, hit the brakes. While you're holding the brakes, tighten these 3 down, and should be done. So anyway, that's the next step, is we're going to do this in reverse. So we're going to put this on, then we'll put the seal in, which is right there, then the sprocket and its nuts and washers, and we'll be ready to go. So first step, put your brake hub on. You've got your 3 spots here, put it on, hand tight, don't tighten it down. You don't even want it really super hand tight, because you are going to center the brakes once it's mounted on the bike. So you'll place your hub. Now this part is a little tricky because there is not much room to get in here and to tighten these down with. So just get them finger tight. Don't even get them very snug. Once you get them finger tight, you can see that there's a little bit of movement built in. That's so that you can actually center this to your brakes, to your bike. So you want that little bit of movement right now. This side is done until we get it mounted on the bike. Once we get it mounted on the bike, we'll press down on the brakes, hold on the brakes, And then we'll tighten these bolts back here, and when the brake shoes expand out, it'll automatically square it to the rim. So we are now on to this side. First thing we're going to do is put the grease seal back in, and I've got just a smidge of grease on my fingertip just to kind of help get it seated. Does not take much at all. It might not actually even be necessary, but I like putting it in there. You can also feel around, make for sure that there's nothing that's falling inside here. You're going to take your seal and just press it in. Just like that, super quick, super easy. Next, we're going to mount up the sprocket, and we will be done adding parts to the Bradley Performance Hub, other than the brakes, which we'll still have to put those on, but this will be the last thing we have to bolt on. So as you just saw, I had a little bit too much powder coat in one hole. Had to kind of knock it out with the file. Not a big deal at all. That's something that you might possibly encounter, is maybe you might have to do something like that, probably not. But I just wanted to show you on mine that yeah, the powder coat was a little too much right there. Literally less than 30 seconds, it's fine. You're gonna be putting your washers and your nuts on, and just work your way around. Take your 14mm wrench and socket, and I'm using this little lightweight electric just to cinch them down. I will then go back and torque to the proper spec, but this gets it on a little bit faster. You'll take that's it. Torque them to proper spec. I don't know what the proper spec is. I'm gonna have to look it up. So you guys will have to look it up too. Ha ha ha, I'm not gonna do everything for you. Get these torqued properly, and then bend your tabs back up, and the work on the hub will 99.9% be done. Be right back once I torque these down. Once you get your nuts and bolts torqued down to spec, use a screwdriver, whatever, bend these back up to where they lock onto the bolts, and that'll be everything you have to do to the Bradley Performance wheel tire hub fat tire assembly. And there you go, those are all tight. Place your brake assembly and your spacer, and now we're going to try to work this into the bike and the chain around and all that good stuff, and mount this dude up. All right. Get the chain up and out of the way. All right, there we go. Put your chain on. Now, putting your axle through, you may have to use a screwdriver or something on the other side to line up everything. There we go. All right. There we go. I've just got the axle in and hand tight. I don't have my snell adjusters. I don't have my chain adjusted, but it's all put back together except for the brake. I'll bring you over and show you that. For your brake, slide your spring on, and this should have been put on already too. There you go. Now you'll want to adjust this to where you have the proper amount of play at the pedal, which I believe is about an inch and a half, something like that. Look up in your manual, don't hold me to that, but it's somewhere close to there. With a helper pushing on the brake pedal, I'm gonna slowly kind of spin, a little more pressure, a little more pressure. There we go. All right, now I should have the drum centered. So I'm just going to tighten it up, and you don't have a lot of room. You really need a short stubby wrench, and mine is not really short enough. Okay, keep holding pressure. All right, all we got left to do is put it on its side stand, adjust the chain to the proper tension, and go from there. So with the bike on its side stand, you'll want to measure. You're supposed to have between like 1.5 and 2.5 inches, and I'm pretty close to that, so going to tighten down the rear hub. Okay, so the rear hub's tightened down, or the rear wheel. I will have to drive it around the yard for a minute, make for sure that there's no excessive slack that comes into it, and yeah, that should be the install. Everything you need to do for the Bradley Performance Fat Tire Kit for TW200. Total time, first time doing it, a little over an hour. It's not bad, but I was also slowed down to do video. So easily doable in one afternoon. I'm going to take it around the yard real quick, and we will see what it does. Okay, so that's the install and the first look at the Bradley Performance Products Fat Tire Kit for the TW200. As you can tell, much beefier tire. Your surface area is wider. You've got better lugs. I'm really looking forward to actually trying that out this weekend. I'll make a video and let you guys know what I think of it. But just driving it down the road, it did have a different characteristic on pavement. It took a minute to feel. It was kind of like, is this right? This doesn't feel right. I stopped and made for sure everything was tight, looked at the chain, because it did feel so much different at first. But after 5 minutes of riding, I was like, oh, okay, that's just the way this tire feels. It's just got a different feel to it. So if you put it on, it will have a slightly different feel. Install, easy. Parts, well made. Yeah. I like it so far. I'll do a follow-up video, an actual ride video, a test video later. This is just a first look and an install, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out Bradley Performance Products. I'll have a link in the description below. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Check out Bradley Performance Products.